Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like Mac Voices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. And by the Mac Voices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter to stay up to date on all the Mac Voices news. Subscribe from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this time we have another first-time guest to Mac Voices, and I'm really excited about it because they make a tool for your iPhone and Mac that I think is indispensable in today's world when we're storing more and more things on our iDevices, but we aren't always able to get them off quite as much as we'd like. I'd like to introduce you to Gregorio Zanon. He is on the iMazing team at DigiDNA, and he's here to talk about iMazing. Greg, it's great to have you. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Chuck. I'm really happy to be here too and to introduce iMazing to you guys.
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed because I've known about iMazing for a long time and used it and have never really thought about, telling other people about it. And so let's fix that right now.
Great.
What is iMazing?
So basically, just a little bit of background. We started just when the very first iPhone came out. And just to answer one simple question, you put your music on your iPod or your iPhone with iTunes, but how do you get it off? Simple answer, you can't. And then basically we just developed a tool which allowed you to extract the music that you put there. It was called Tune8 at the time, then it became Disk8. And over the years, we evolved to support more and more features, more and more data sets. And we changed our name from Disk8 to iMazing in 2014. So that's a bit of the background story. And basically the idea to empower people to give them back the full access to their data as much as we can, of course, without jailbreaking and without doing any funky stuff.
Any particular reason for the name changes along the way?
Yes, well, Tune8 was a different program. It was music only. Disk8 focused on file transfer. And basically, Disk8 sounds a bit too much like a utility. It sounds extremely scary, even. Disk8 is anything broken. So we felt that iMazing was a much better name.
Okay, that makes sense on both counts. Mm-hmm. So you talked about the fact that we can get our music off. Let's talk about that first. How do I go about doing that? Is it a one-way transfer off, or is there a reason for me to use iMazing to put music on my iPhone?
It really depends on how you're set up. If you're using Apple Music and you're just listening to music from there, then there's not much we can do to help. But if you have your own music collection and you want to sync it to your iPhone or your iPad, then we actually have a workflow that is much more old school in a way. You can just take a few songs and drag and drop them to the phone, and that's that simple. You can also just take one song and drag it out of your phone to your desktop. That's not a problem either. And then we also support rebuilding iTunes libraries. For example, if you lose your main library, your computer, and all your music is on your phone or your iPod, we can rebuild the iTunes library for you.
Okay, so if I'm taking or putting music onto my phone via iMazing, where does it show up?
In the music app. So we have a sync feature that syncs to the music app. Or if you want to, if you use a dedicated music player, you can sync to that, which is much easier actually technically to do because there's no kind of protection of the sync. It's just a simple file transfer.
Okay.
If you use VLC or other music players,
right. So I guess I wouldn't necessarily be burdened with an extra workflow listening to my music if I use Apple Music as my player.
Then what you would do, no, it's the same. It's just a drag and drop. It's the same. Okay. But the difference is in the way we sync. Apple Music Apple's Music app is a bit different in that it doesn't parse the metadata of the files. So it needs all the work to be prepared. It needs the client who pushes the music to the phone to first parse all metadata and to insert that into a database. So it's a bit more involved for us, but for the user, it's the same thing.
Okay, good. All right, so that solves one problem, because in fact, it's kind of ironic we're talking about this. Just over last weekend, a friend of mine called and said that his PC had died, all his music was on his iPhone, and how does he get it off and backed up? And it's like, well, I know of one utility that'll do it. So what else can we do with iMazing? Because this is just where it pretty much starts.
Yes, absolutely. We grew so much over the last 5-6 years in terms of features. We've kept adding stuff, support to browse and extract all sorts of data. So I don't know. It depends on what data sets and on what you're interested in. We support contacts, notes, photos, of course. So what should I start with?
Well, let's start with. I'm going to put contacts, calendars. Do you do calendars?
No, calendars is something we've meant to add. We don't support calendars. That's one of the things we're missing at the moment.
Okay, well then I'll just go with contacts, because in my mind, one of the great benefits of using some of the contact apps on the Mac and iOS is that they have that common data set, so that I can look at that data set through the eyes of various contact apps, let's say, if there are particular features in one app that aren't in another. If I'm using iMazing to manipulate my contacts, am I endangering that ability?
No. What will happen is we can only extract, we can extract contacts from all your accounts if they're synced, but we can only push to the local accounts of the phone. So you're not in danger of doing it any harm. And what you can do, what some people do use iMazing for, is consolidating different sources. So if they have a contact synced with a Yahoo mailbox, with a Google Gmail, and with iCloud, and suddenly they just want to consolidate everything in one single place, they can use iMazing to pull all their contacts and then close these mailboxes or stop syncing them, and then re-upload with one consolidated address book. That's one of the use cases we see quite a bit.
So that's a pretty good use case, I think, right there for that. But I want to make sure we touch on one that I think is everybody's favorite, and it just seems like there's so many options right now to sync and get photos on and off our phone automatically or manually. What does iMazing bring to that particular party? Anything that we really need to be aware of other than just transfer?
So iMazing is great to pull photos off your phone when you just need to pull a few pictures if you're at a friend's place, and you just need some pictures to get to your friend's computer quickly. iMazing can do that for you very easily. It's just drag and drop workflow. And one thing we do support, which is quite nice, is you can actually get to the originals of your pictures to which you've applied filters to. So you can export both the filtered picture and the original picture very easily. You can also export the video files of live photos, bursts. So we have support for these albums of specific types of pictures. But the Photos Apple app is very handy. It will import everything in one go very easily. But if you want to transfer photos in more detail or to someone's computer to which you don't want to sync, but just transfer just a few pics, then iMazing is a very handy tool.
How about video? Same thing?
Yeah, same thing.
Okay, same thing. One other thing on the website I was looking that you talk about is you're able to transfer all my settings and everything about my phone to, say, a new phone. That's going to be high on everyone's mind right now as the iPhone 7 comes out. Is it better to use iMazing, or is it just different than using Apple's typical setup and ways to transfer things?
Basically, what we do is a backup and restore. But with the ability to do it in one go, you plug both devices and iMazing will do the backup and restore for you. What we do that iTunes doesn't do is that we allow you to customize the process a little. If you'd like to take the opportunity of that transfer to not restore all apps with iMazing, you can just uncheck some apps, and when you restore, the backup restore will be faster because it won't need to restore all these apps and then to sync them. So we do that for apps and for data sets. If you're restoring to a small phone for some reason with less capacity, then maybe you just want to get rid of your pictures and start syncing them on iCloud Photo Library instead. So we allow you to do that, to prepare the backup, to edit it. That's what we do behind the scenes, so that when it's restored, there's less data in it, and that's just what you want to be included in the process in there.
Now, what are the logistics, Greg, of making that kind of transfer? Am I plugging both my old phone and my new phone in, or am I plugging my old phone in, letting it download to the Mac, and then upload to the new phone?
Basically, you plug in your old phone, you click transfer. Then we have new wizards in iMazing 2, which are really nice for users because they're completely step-by-step, one step after another. So it will first ask you to connect a target device. You can also restore one backup or transfer one device to multiple target devices for admins, or that can be quite handy too. So then you just select your target device, confirm, then you can customize the options, what exactly you want to include in the restore process, and then confirm again, and that's it. It will also ask you to, if you'd like to encrypt the backup of the source device, because if you activate encryption, you can transfer sensitive data such as health data and passwords too. If you don't activate encryption, those won't be transferred over. So we are quite proactive, and we encourage our users to enable encryption on their devices.
And during this process, you don't do anything other than copy information from the original, say, iPhone.
So it's a backup. That is a process that is made with an Apple piece of software called the Backup Agent. That backs up your data to your computer, and then we do some work on the backup to prepare it and put it in the state where you want it to, and then restore it to the target phone. That's it.
So we just covered a lot of stuff very quickly. Well, anything else that we want to make sure before we get into the next part of the discussion about the new version of iMazing? Mm-hmm. Anything that we didn't mention?
Let me just check my notes for a few seconds. Because iMazing is quite broad, and I had split up when I prepared for this little talk. I had split up iMazing's features in a few different categories. The first being things that you just cannot do in the vanilla Apple environment. So maybe it's worth just mentioning a few of these things. For example, the fact that with iMazing you can see the state of your battery, the health of the battery. So if you suspect that something's wrong with it, you actually have some data to rely upon. Then there's also all kinds of data which you cannot access with iTunes at all. For example, your call logs, you can access that with iMazing. If you're a Windows user, then iMazing is the only way to print your SMS and your iMessages. If you're a Mac user, then you might not have. You might only have iMessages in your in the Mac Messages app, but with iMazing you can actually get all of them consolidated. So there's all these types of let's say advanced data access that are used by people who simply want to sometimes export call logs to CSV because they need to have some statistics on their calls. That's in the commercial world more, or people who just want to print messages because they're getting married and they want to make a gift to their loved one. That's a use case we see quite often, printing SMS as a gift of a memory of courtship. It's quite cute, we find. So all these kind of use cases exist too.
A couple in there I wouldn't have thought of. Okay, that works. And you're right. There are a lot of things there that you just can't do with the current version or upcoming version of iOS. So.
Yeah, but I just want to be completely open and honest. There's one thing sometimes mistake iMazing for an iTunes alternative, but there are many things which iTunes does which we can't do. We can't connect to the App Store. We're not a music library, so it's not an alternative. It's an other tool which allows you to go beyond in certain cases, but it's not either iMazing, either iTunes. They're different tools really.
Greg, another reason that this was a great time to have you on to talk about iMazing is that there's a new version of iMazing that's just come out as iOS 10 comes out. What kind of enhancements have been done to the new version, and what new capabilities do we have? So
first of all, the new version is 100% compatible with iOS 10. which seems like it's not much, but it was actually quite a bit of work because Apple packed a few surprises for us in iOS 10, completely changed the backup format, made encrypted backups much more secure for the user, and also more difficult for us to handle. So that was quite surprising, and it was a fun challenge for the whole team here. So we are very proud to be completely compatible with the new iOS. It's going to be fun.
Okay.
And,
so I apologize for interrupting, but you say more difficult for you to handle from a security standpoint. Can you elaborate a little on that?
Sure. When the user decides to encrypt his backup, all backups made from his device will be encrypted, all local backups. iTunes or iMazing backups with any software, when you back up your device, it will be encrypted. And before, you had a list of files with metadata, the date of modification, all sorts of things, the encryption keys used, which was accessible. And now the metadata itself is encrypted. So it's a second layer of security, and we need to decrypt your backup in order to display the data to you. This is done purely locally. You have to enter your password. We're not hacking anything, but in order to display your data, of course, we need to decrypt it. And so, yeah, we're quite happy to see Apple moving even more in the direction of greater user privacy. But to be honest, it was quite a challenge, and we had a few very busy weeks when iOS 10, when the first beta came out. We spent 2 weeks working a lot on that, and we were very happy to find solutions so that our users can keep on using iMazing as they always have.
Great. I apologize. I just know I wanted to make sure I got to that. It just seems like security is such a big topic right now. For anything that even looks like a little bit of security or granting access or encrypting or decrypting, you have to ask in more detail. What else do we have in iOS, the iOS 10 version of iMazing?
So the main huge feature that we bring to the table is automatic archiving of backups. Vanilla iTunes backups are overwriting each other. So it's just one image of your device which is maintained by iTunes. Now, this is the way it works, but it's not natural at all for users who maybe they'll back up, then they'll delete photos, then they'll back up again and think that the data is safe. Wrong. The deleted pictures are then removed from the backup because the backup is just an image of the phone. So we spent quite a few months of research and development, and I was actually on the team which coded this part. I did a lot of the code myself for archiving. It was lots of fun to do. And now basically every time you back up, we keep a snapshot of the state of that backup, and we optimize space so that we only memorize, we only save what changes. And that means that you can have 25, 30 backups which only occupy a few gigs of space on your hard drive. So that's very cool. And we also have a view where you can go back in time, a bit like with Time Machine. You can just go back in time and see your device, how it was 1 month ago, 2 months ago, whenever you started to back up with iMazing 2, basically.
Very nice, very nice. Since we're talking about backups so much, one thing that a lot of us have found with backups is and can be sort of a surprise is that the backups aren't necessarily like we think of our Mac backups, that there's some things that don't get included in backups.
Yes.
Notably podcasts. And then you have to go out and re-download all of those, which is not a tragedy. It's just sometimes a little bit inconvenient. When I'm doing a backup with iMazing, am I taking like all the files, or is it more of an Apple-like backup that doesn't include that material?
It's the same. We cannot access more files than what Apple does when they back up your device. It's basically Apple did it this way because there are some intellectual property concerns. And it can be, well, whether it's for the media library where they do not want files to be included in the backup for obvious reasons, or application files. If you have a podcast app and users are downloading your podcast, if they have access to the raw files, then they can spread them and hack them. Yeah. So that's one of the main reasons. Apple does not back up files in the cache folders of apps. So most apps which download content, which is protected from the web, will place that content in the cache folder, and it won't be backed up.
Okay. But now how does that, going back to our discussion of music and video and all that, how does iMazing handle that? If I have something on there that has been transferred over and placed in one of those cache files, can I still get it off of my iDevice?
Not without jailbreaking. This is a restriction that is just, without jailbreaking, it's not possible to do. It's the way Apple implemented communication with the device. There's no workaround short of jailbreaking, unfortunately.
Well, and there's some good reasons for it. It's just I want to make sure we've set folks' expectations of what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do.
Yeah. And so we're not a hacking tool, and we don't encourage jailbreak, but we do fully support it. We're completely neutral regarding jailbreak. But yes, it's very hard for users to understand why some data is accessible and other kinds of data isn't. It is quite a tough subject, and it's pretty complicated. So we try in iMazing to make it as open as possible. But of course, in the end, we can't reduce the complexity of access to user data completely.
Sure. And I always discourage people from jailbreaking, because even though you think that you've just gained a couple new capabilities, sometimes those unlocked doors mean that the bad things can come in too. So
sure.
How difficult was it to do the upgrade? I know you referenced a little bit earlier about security and the encryption, but how much of a challenge was it to bring iMazing into the iOS 10 world?
Yeah, it was a pretty big challenge, specifically because of that encrypted backups issue. If we hadn't figured out these backups, we would have made a version that was not compatible with backup encryption. That's the case of quite a few of our competitors, who I won't name here. But we're fortunate enough to have a very talented programmer working with us for many years now, and who really took the challenge, and he just didn't come to the office for 2 weeks and buried himself in work, and he came back and was like, that's it, I've got it. So that was great. But apart from that big challenge, it was reasonably easy to upgrade iMazing.
So let's see, I got to make sure I say this correctly to have it make sense. So the current version of iMazing will work with iOS 10, but also
yes,
it will work backwards.
Yes, of course.
If I have an iOS 10 device, do I have to have the new version of iMazing, or is it?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, yeah. We had already started work on iMazing 2 when iOS 10 beta opened. And basically, there's so many changes in the backup format, we couldn't stop development on iMazing 2 and go back to iMazing 1, and it would have been impossible to finish on time. So we focused 100% on iMazing 2.
And again, it makes sense, because the future is where we're all going. So,
absolutely.
But I want to set those expectations so folks know what they need. And if you have iMazing 1, you need to go to 2 if you're going to iOS 10 to keep on having the capabilities you have.
Yes. And of course, we'll upgrade all licenses purchased in the last 6 months for free. And we have a 50% discount for all our users who wish to upgrade. So we think we have pretty friendly upgrade conditions.
Which leads us to the question of pricing and availability. Where do we go to get it, and how much is the pricing?
So get it at iMazing.com, super simple. And price starts at $34.99 US. That's for a single license. Then if you want to install iMazing on 2 computers, that's $44.99, and you can install it on a PC and or a Mac. It works on both platforms. And then we have a family license at $64.99, and that's for 5 computers.
You know, it just occurred to me that we're talking a lot about iPhones and iOS and all. We should make clear that this is a Mac and a Windows app that is doing this. It's not an iOS app.
Yes, absolutely. That's a very good point. We do have some users who confuse iMazing for an iOS app, even if we do mention PC and Mac everywhere. We do hear from time to time, yes, but I have a Mac iPad. But yes, it is a desktop application that helps you interacts with your iOS data, but it's a desktop application.
And sort of along the same lines, as you made a great point, we're using the iPhone as the thing to talk about, but this is all iOS devices.
Absolutely. iPod Touch, iPhone, iPad, and the older iPods for music and file transfer.
How old an how old an iPod would be supported?
Well, I meant all the non-iOS iPods, such as iPod Classic, iPod Nano, etc. And yeah, we try to support all of them. The very, very old ones, we may have some problems with some databases. It really depends. But we do, if there are problems, we always here at tech support to help our users. But we try our best to support every model.
Great. So if there's that old iPod laying in the bottom of the drawer and you've just pulled it out and say, oh, I want to get this off, there's stuff on here that I really don't want to lose. This is what you need.
You should definitely try. And what I should mention too is that a lot of stuff is free in iMazing. Our trial version is not limited in time. You can just download iMazing, use it. It will say, no, you can't download or upload any more songs, but it will let you browse everything. So if you have an old iPod and you think, will iMazing recognize it? Will it work? Just try it. There's no strings attached. We don't require any form of subscription. We don't even ask for your email. We just let everyone download and try. And it's more than try, because in trial mode, we offer completely free file transfer. All the backing up, browsing backups is completely free. Even transferring apps is free. So we offer actually a lot with no strings attached.
I did not know that. That's a great service to the community to let you. It even goes beyond try before you buy.
Yes, it does. We used to have a limited time trial. It was 2 weeks, but 6 months ago we decided to get rid of that, and so really let people try iMazing, use it, and the more users we have, the happier we are now.
Perfect. Greg, have we missed anything? It seems like we covered a lot of ground pretty quickly.
Yes, we did. I'm sorry for users if there was too much information for the viewers. Apologies for that. I just have a last little look at my notes. Is there anything there? We covered a lot of stuff. There's so much that we could still talk about, but I guess people will get bored too quickly.
Well, no, if they're, I don't mind if they're major capabilities. I mean, I want to make sure that people know everything iMazing can do.
So one thing we haven't talked about at all is application transfer. It's something we introduced last year, and we make little backups of your apps. It doesn't work with every app, but with most apps it does. Basically, we back up the state of the application, and then you can restore that without doing a full backup restore. And you can restore that across different Apple IDs. So, for example, if your son was playing Angry Birds on your own iPhone, and suddenly for his 10th birthday, he has his own iPod Touch or whatever device, he can transfer the state of his game onto his new device across Apple IDs. It doesn't work with games which are server-based, but for most games which have local save files, it works absolutely fine. So that's a pretty fun little feature that we developed. And do I have any other fun facts? Yeah, I have too much. I think if anyone is curious, iMazing.com will be a brand new website actually next week, and yeah, all the info is there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that feature. That's huge, especially for the parents out there who are getting their kids' devices, or maybe as we're in the process now of getting new iPhones, doing hand-me-downs. And I'm not a gamer, but I know that sometimes saving those levels and all that can break up families. So, yeah. So that's an impressive feature.
Yeah, my kids haven't started quite gaming yet, but it will happen soon enough.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready.
Yeah. That's interesting. Does your personal life inform some of the features you try to build into iMazing?
I'd say not yet, because they're very young. My eldest is 4, so but I'm sure it will. It informs my crave for the new iPhone very much, because taking pictures of one's kids, I'm sure, as every dad knows, it's our favorite pastime. So the new iPhone looks particularly impressive in that regard.
Well, they're only that age once, so I guess you have to get the best photos you can, and that means a new iPhone. So the website is iMazing.com.
Absolutely.
And that's where you go to get it, to learn more. And Greg, you had mentioned something about a coupon code for MacVoices viewers and listeners. And first of all, thank you so much for that. That's very much appreciated. I'll let you talk about how they go about using it and what the coupon code is.
Sure, Chuck. We are really happy to offer MacVoices a coupon. Coupon code will be iMazing MacVoices in one word. iMazing MacVoices, and you just head to iMazing.com, and when you need that license, you'll have 30% off. It'll be very straightforward.
Great, thank you. And that is all lowercase, all uppercase, or doesn't it matter?
It doesn't matter, but all uppercase looks better on the screen.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Greg, thank you so much for the time. I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned some things I didn't know about iMazing.
Well, thank you very much, Chuck. I had a very nice chat.
We'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Go check out iMazing. I did not know some of the free features that Greg mentioned, and at the very least, that'll give you an idea of what can be done. And then if you have the need for some of the others, absolutely buy it. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com, bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.